Hey, it's Harry. You're about to listen to Building, the podcast charting our journey to starting TwelveTwentyFive, the audience first growth marketing agency. We want our podcast to be a very open and transparent look around the journey of starting an agency, and you're about to listen to one of the very first episodes where we haven't even decided the agency name, so you'll notice that does not get mentioned throughout these early episodes. We hope you enjoy listening.
You said an interesting thing there, like the opportunity, like even if we don't win these sales, I hope that, you know, the impression we give these potential leads and clients is that we're helping them and their business by kind of teaching them potentially or kind of showing them kind of a different way to how their current agencies work or how they might need an agency to support them. So definitely, even if we don't win the business, like the process, it's good learning for us, but it's also a good learning for the leads that we talk to as well.
Over the last 3 months, pretty much everything has happened that we thought was going to happen. And like ChatGPT and Microsoft teamed up, and that started to slowly transition the world of search. And then Google were like, oh shit, we need to do some stuff now. Obviously, they've been planning all this stuff for ages, but I think they have released things a bit earlier than they would have liked to basically say to the markets, hey, don't worry, we've got this shit locked down too. So in the last, 2-3 weeks, Google have launched SGE, especially in North America, which is like search generative experience. So how essentially they're linking artificial intelligence and that more conversational way of searching. So what I have been focusing on a lot, and I think it is the way that we need to go from a sales perspective, is forget about the results. Yeah, we can give an indication what we think might be possible to prove the fact that it will be worth a 5K a month, 10K a month, 15K a month, whatever it may be investment. Like here's what you could have. But ultimately, let's sell them a concept, because if we can get people sold them a concept, like everyone's going to be on the same page.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Building, our podcast that is charting our journey as we are setting up and scaling a new growth marketing agency. This podcast charts our journey each week, and I am joined as ever by the co-founder Harry. I'm Brendan, and this is just a look at that journey, kind of the milestones we hit each week and kind of go through the activity. We've got a couple of other segments as well, so Harry has a few minutes to kind of spout his knowledge on a certain topic area of my choosing each week. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Harry, how's it going?
I'm good. Two points to bring to the table straight away. First of all, this is the second time we've recorded the intro. After I pulled you up last week for reading the notes, even though we're at episode 8, you tried to spitball it this week, and we had to re-record after the first one didn't go too well.
Rambling.
So point number 1. Point number 2, and we might need to go back and listen to this to make sure I'm right, but I'm pretty sure even despite reading your notes this time around, you forgot to mention the date.
Of course, yes. I will add the date for the historical record. So the date today is the 26th of May. The reason we read out the date is because we're recording this before we actually launch. So there's some kind of historical, chronological order to all of this madness. And we're getting better. This is our 9th episode kind of recording of podcast, but I'm a complete novice when it comes to podcasts. So each week it's hopefully going to become less wooden and kind of more professional as we go. So yeah, thanks for pulling me up twice in 2 weeks, Harry. I can't wait for you to mess up because the whole world's going to know about
it. But back to your original question of how am I doing? Yeah, busy, good. Can't really complain of either of those two things really. So I think the last week, and with the nature of the name of this podcast, like we've been building, and by building we mean probably good momentum this week. So where are we at? We've had 1 signed client, which is absolutely huge. 1 invoiced client as well. So not the same, different client, which is great. Yeah. We have 2 pitched opportunities we're waiting to hear back on, one of which we should hear back from today. I have been checking my email pretty much every 20 minutes. And in fact, let me do a live check on the podcast now. Let's have a look.
Fingers crossed for this.
Let's have a look. And sadly, no reply yet. We do have a long weekend coming up as well, so I will message them this afternoon just to check in, say hi, enjoy the long weekend, and hopefully just nudge them into a decision. And then we have 1 that we should hear back on next week, all of which is great. including the fact we still have other ops that we're working through at the moment. So we're busy on the sales front to the point of if we can close 50 to 60% of what we're working on, we'll be above where we were hoping we'd be by the time we came to launch in July. So yeah, feeling good about things. How are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably starting to panic slightly, but I think it's unfounded panic. Kind of over the past couple of days, you've calmed me down a bit. I think I'm feeling super busy at the minute because we've still got a day job at our current agency. We're still there to the 30th of June. So I'm still busy wrapping up things on that side and then doing this work on the side. And yeah, it scares me a bit because I'm already starting work for the client that's signed, getting straight in with a technical audit because we're doing a strategy project for them, which will hopefully lead into a nice retainer. So doing all of that and also doing a lot of setup, which we'll go into, makes me feel very busy at the minute. But yeah, I'm loving the challenge, and I'm confident that this is just from the movement that we've had in the past 3 to 4 weeks. We're really onto something here, and the way that it's gone from it's going to be survival, like I'm going to have to eat beans on toast for like 6 months, to shit, we might have to actually recruit someone for when we actually launch. So the shift and that confidence, it's a huge boost, and we just got to keep doing everything we can to build this momentum. But the one bit of that, I think we still need to plan out our actual launch and kind of how we go with that, because we want to make a bit of a splash. So things like the website and kind of setting up processes that are all in place from day one so we can really hit the ground running.
So without going too therapy on you, let's get into this a little bit. So you said you've started to panic a little bit this week, and you skirted around the edges of it a little bit. So what is it that you've been panicking about?
You know me, and I don't want to be the risk averse one of the pair here and be like, no, we got to slow down. We got to walk before we can run. And you've said to me about 18,000 times this week, no, client acquisition. Let's get the clients in. We'll figure it out. That's definitely the right way to go. I'm just like, oh no, we need time to do the delivery, and we need to do it because it feels like I've got to do it all. But then I keep forgetting we've got contacts, we've got freelancers that we can kind of help us out with some of the delivery bits and pieces. So it's just getting my mindset wrapped around that and understanding and knowing I'm not going to be working 2 jobs all the time. I'm going to be able to put all my efforts into this in a month's time. So I've just got to chill out a little bit. I can't be getting stressed. I haven't got any hair to lose. I've lost it already. So yeah, in a good place. Obviously, it's a nice sunny day outside as well. So it's just making sure the mindset is bang on and understanding what we want to do. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is grow and scale this agency. So the only way we do that is by getting clients. If the pipeline's hot and we can sign these clients, let's go hell for leather to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And a phrase that anybody who's worked for me previously, when I'm a big fan of, is like being comfortable being uncomfortable. And like, yeah, we're going to feel that squeeze, but if we were choosing a pain to be feeling, like too busy is the one we'd probably choose, right? Like it's better than, I think when we first had the idea of going for this in July, we were like, okay, well, we're going to be at our current agency for 3 months from the moment we tell them into that run up. And if we haven't got like a sniff by that point, maybe it's time to panic. Like that, okay, I would agree with you on. Like, if we haven't got anything in 3 months, like what are we doing? Being sat here now on like what's that, like five pitched ish ops. One of those closed, others that are, I would say, hopefully likely to close, and some more in the pipeline. Great, like let's tackle that challenge. And I think you said you need to relax because you don't have much hair. Like I similar. Like my objective is to try and keep hold of it until I'm 30, so I've got 3 more years. So the stress levels can incrementally grow up until that point. But we just have to remember what the end goal is, but also like busyness is always the lesser of the 2 evils, right? So and I agree, like combined with the fact the weather's nice outside, which just encourages me more to keep working, to keep getting to where we want to be, so that like maybe I don't have to spend all of my time in the UK. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like those kind of things are the things that motivate me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and on a side note, as ever, whenever things happen to Liverpool FC, how are you feeling about Liverpool not making the Champions League this season?
I mean, not as bad as Mo Salah based on his Instagram post. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
But like sometimes you have to take a bit of a hit to understand how to come back and I guess be back stronger. But what I will say is this is probably the worst season we've had in about 8 years. And this is probably United's best season they've had in about 15 years. And the points gap at the end of it's probably going to be about 4 points. So that just puts things into perspective still as to where the two teams are at. So not the best. I think what hurt me more is losing the bet to you because at the start of the season we did have a bet about where the two teams would finish. But I think maybe it's time to move on to our status updates for the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to get that in just to wind you up a little bit more. So, status update then. Okay, so for me, I think the thrust of what I've been doing over the past couple of days is getting a head start on this project that we've signed. So, I've got a timeline. I'm going to be meeting them on the 19th of June to go through all of that. And I've got to deliver a tech audit, a competitive landscape analysis, and some kind of keyword research to start the bones of the content strategy. It's quite a bit of work to do in that. So yeah, I'm diving straight in with a tech audit. So that started. I've got some time over this bank holiday weekend to get that started complete as well. So yeah, enjoying that at the minute. The next point, we have both been working very hard on the sales opportunities. So from your side in particular, you've got a couple of big fish on the hook at the moment. So yeah, how are you feeling about the sales side?
It's interesting. So I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about sales, but from a different perspective. So they were talking about when they come to sell their businesses, the biggest thing that they've learned is that they need to be emotionally unattached from that process before they even go into it. And I thought that was quite a strange thing to say. But what I can say is I can understand that now that we're going through this sales cycle. Like, of course, we've done sales. We've been in sales for like the last 5 to 6 years at our current agency, but the emotional attachment there is very different to how I feel now that it's for us. And I perhaps have found myself becoming a bit too emotionally attached to the first couple of sales, right? Like checking in on them pretty much every day, being like, okay, well, where's this at? Where's this at? Where's this at? And there's a middle ground there that needs to be found for sure. But all in all, like I enjoy this part. I enjoy the fact finding and the, I guess, initial idea setting of like, Joe, do you know what? Like we can take this website, we can take this product, we can take this service, we can actually do something with it, and we're confident we can grow it. And I think we spoke about this last week about the fact that we had a very good opportunity, or you had a very good opportunity to sit and look at another agency's pitch and another agency's work. And this week I've been fortunate enough to not sit in a pitch, but definitely have a look at some of the work another agency has done and how they've handled the situation that hasn't gone particularly well. And again, it just filled me with confidence that, you know what, we can see the opportunity, we can see where the problems lie, we know how to grow these, we know how to grow clients' businesses. And that is just the one thing that we need to get through in the sales process. But yeah, to actually answer your question, I'm really enjoying it, and we'll start to feel even better when we get pen to paper on 1 to 2 of these. Like I said, like I'm probably working on 4. 50% close rate is a more than good enough close rate. So if we get 2 of those, I'll be feeling great. So yeah, let's check back in on episode 10 and we'll see how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said an interesting thing there, like the opportunity, like even if we don't win these sales, I hope that, you know, the impression we give these potential leads and clients is that we're helping them and their business by kind of teaching them potentially or kind of showing them kind of a different way to how their current agencies work or how they might need an agency to support them. So definitely, even if we don't win the business, like the process, it's good learning for us, but it's also a good learning for the leads that we talk to as well. So that's a kind of win-win situation from the sales as well. So, and then the other kind of sales bit, and I don't like talking about this because, yeah, it's just one of those tasks that has to be done. It's super important, and I get the point. It just takes time. Right. Is target accounts. So how have you done with target accounts?
I've done some, right? So the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about target accounts, and the answer is we haven't been doing or achieving a huge amount. I've done some. I've done a handful. I think I've done 4 in total this week, maybe 3. But I've made a bit of progress, which is good. But again, I think I'm starting to think about how I can approach this more systematically, because I think what's happening is we're getting into a bit of a negative, not spiral, but a negative workflow now, whereby like we say we're going to do something, we jump on a call, we then don't achieve them, and we know we need these by the 1st of July. That is the most important thing. It's also the thing of like there's always something more important on that day. So like you say, sales opportunities, you've been delivering some client work. There is like the copy, the website, there's all this sort of stuff that always seems to be taking a bit more of a priority. So the way that I'm looking at doing this is one of 2 things. Either kind of dedicate an hour every day to get these done before July, or potentially something that I haven't brought to you yet, but I think we maybe potentially give some serious consideration to, is going a bit deeper in terms of the investment we put into our ICPs and buyer persona list, or setups, I should say, and then just going and employing a virtual assistant. They're relatively low cost from what I've seen and heard from people, very high quality people as well. And potentially that is just something that we outsource, given the fact that it is important for the business. But during setup, there were a bunch of other things that are as important, if not more important. So I think food for thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. So when it comes to potentially spending money on that aspect, it's not in the budget, the startup budget, but if we can make some savings in some of the other budget lines, then yeah, we can trial it to see, it might be a good test to see, actually compare how we do and then compare what that service can produce as well. So yeah, I'm the same. I've managed 10% of what I said I'd get done last week. So yeah, we need to get moving, but we have had higher priorities. And I think the things that we've worked on, when I work on the one thing that I'm going to get achieved, I've managed to do much of that. Because for me as well, another piece of work that I've done this week in terms of delivery, like you mentioned, was delivering invoiced training session, again, with the same clients that we did that half-day consultancy with. And again, we're in that kind of pitch process with them at this stage. But adding value and being able to build relationships from the board level right down to junior members in the marketing team sets us up for success. So hopefully that pitch becomes a coronation through the kind of relationships that we've built. So yeah, that was a good training session. So yeah, that's the kind of sales work side. And then switching over to the kind of setup of the agency and bits that we've got to get sorted. This week, just because my partner's an accountant, I've kind of led on Xero setup. So setting up our chart of accounts, setting up our invoices and quotes, forms, and kind of getting that whole program set up. So I must admit, my wife managed to do most of it, but I watched and she's given me a number of training sessions. So confident that moving forward, Xero, financially, like the financial reporting side of things, we're getting that set up nicely. And the other point, obviously, we've got the copy ready to go and you're going kind of full steam ahead with the website design.
Yes. So my partner is also helping us, and she's been doing the design of the website. Now, I'm happy to admit, and I know she is as well, like she's pretty junior in her career when it comes to design. So she's studying this at uni at the moment, and this is the first website she has designed. So the process that we thought would work well here is then sending it to, I guess, one of our close friends who is a designer, who's a very established designer, to review that initial draft before we see the whole thing, allow my partner to action that feedback, and then we will get the whole thing to, I guess, assess, provide feedback, amends, and things like that. So we're making a good progress on it. Our friend is reviewing that as we speak at the moment, so that should be done by close of play today. That then gives the weekend for those amends to be made. So we should then have a draft of it probably Tuesday, because we have the long weekend. So we should see, I guess, technically version 2, but version 1 for us of those pages that we need designed ready for launch on Tuesday. So we should be at a point whereby when we sit here next week, all being well, we have a very close to finalized version. And then we need to turn our attention to getting that built, which is a whole different ballgame, right? Like the initial conversation we had with the person that we wanted to build the site, something we mentioned last week, didn't go as well as I'd say one hoped.
What did he tell us? What did he tell us?
I think the initial response was, nah, forget WordPress. You don't need me. go on to Webflow. You guys can do that on Webflow. Anybody can use Webflow. And we're like, oh, okay. If anybody can use Webflow, can you do it for us? As to which his initial response was, well, I can't use Webflow. I'm not very good at it. Like,
No.
explain that to me. Like, how does that marry up? So there's that side of things that definitely does need to get resolved, and something that I'm turning my attention to as of today to what that setup's gonna look like in terms of tech stack, in terms of who's gonna build it. But we should at least have very close to final, if not final, designs by next week. That gives us plenty of time. As we're talking like 3.5 week window there of build. Ultimately, you break it down, it's four template pages, a thank you page, and a cookie policies page. Like, it is no more than a week of dev if we can find the right developer. So I'm confident in terms of timelines. It's just need to put a bit more effort than I was hoping to have had to put in to find a developer, but we'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the only kind of question mark I've got ahead of launch, that has to be ready for launch. So we'll kind of prioritize that. And obviously, if you need support on that front, let me know, and I'll help and jump in on that side. Other kind of setup-y bits that we need to consider. I'm currently speaking to another contact about a couple of laptops, because we've both got laptops that are due to go back to our current agency. So I'm working on that to try and get some, instead of buying brand new. There's other options as well, potentially leasing and so on. So I'm working on that hardware side of things at the moment as well. So I think that's our status update, unless I've missed anything.
No, I think that covers everything. Like, we've done probably 20 minutes on that, so it shows we're growing increasingly busy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's go to my favorite segment, because I sit here and listen to you. And this is the bringing a topic to the table. So we haven't added any more, because the topics that you had kind of suggested are still good and relevant. So the topics are people buy from people, or sales and buying into concepts, not results. Now, I usually pick, but I'm going to let you pick which one you talk about today.
Oh, interesting. I think they're both fairly topical. Let me ask you a qualifying question. Would you like the one that's most directly linked to SEO, or the one that is a bit more conceptual?
Well, considering I'm digging into SEO tech audits and stuff like that, let's hear what you've got to say about the more directly kind of involved SEO one.
Okay, cool. Out of interest, which one do you think it is?
The people buy from people one.
Oh, interesting. No. So it's actually sales and buying into concepts, not results. So
Okay.
I guess we came to the decision to start our agency based on many different factors, but one of the driving forces for it being like right now at this specific point in time is because we were foreseeing essentially what has now happened, right? Like, we knew that everything needed to transition away from, I guess, like keyword first into, like, it then became like search first, basically the same thing, into building brand. And like, we very much been like, okay, that sort of stuff is all great. But if you strip it right back to the core fundamentals, it is, I guess, per the first point, which is people buy from people and optimizing for people, or what we're talking about, which we obviously would have done the launch video by now, so we can say it, which is audience first organic search. So like, that's kind of like the pre-context to where I'm going with this. So that is why we decided to do what we're doing. Since then, over the last 3 months, pretty much everything has happened that we thought was going to happen. And like, ChatGPT and Microsoft teamed up, and that started to slowly transition the world of search. And then Google were like, oh shit, we need to do some stuff now. Obviously, they've been planning all this stuff for ages, but I think they have released things a bit earlier than they would have liked to basically say to the markets, hey, don't worry, we've got this shit locked down too. So in the last, 2-3 weeks, Google have launched SGE, especially in North America, which is like search generative experience. So how essentially they're linking artificial intelligence and that more conversational way of searching with all the information that Google has at its disposal. What does that mean for us and this whole buying into concepts? Well, we have no idea. I'm going to swear here. Like, what the fuck is going to happen from a paid perspective or from an organic perspective, or what any of that means for the search landscape, which means that you can't really sell results anymore. because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Now, this has been a problem like throughout the time of SEO. Like, we are very dependent on what Google does from a algorithm perspective. Now, I've been a big advocate of not talking about algorithm updates, because essentially Google is trying to do the first thing as well, which is people buy from people. How do we optimize for the people? Okay, fine. And if you as an SEO and as a business and as like your client and what they're doing, as long as everyone's optimizing for people, like that's kind of not a problem. Like I still subscribe to that way of thinking. But the challenge is like we have no idea what is going to happen, right? There have been some models and some early testing where for certain searches and certain conversational searches, there's like one organic link on that page. There's somewhere basically the whole thing is organic, somewhere the whole thing is paid. Like we don't know what is going to happen. So suddenly that strategy, which is something that we've been pushing for the last 6 years of let's focus on the results, let's lead with the results, let's lead with forecasting, let's get people to buy into with organic search, with SEO, you can achieve X. That's going to be really difficult to do right now. So what do? Well, you sell people on the concept of doing the right thing. So if you can get people to buy into the concept of what you're trying to achieve, suddenly some of those more difficult conversations, those conversations that honestly, like no good consultant can answer right now, you're saving yourself a headache, but ultimately you're getting everybody on the same page. So what do I actually mean when I'm saying buying into concepts? And this is something that I've been trying in the sales process. So I've been having a few exploratory calls recently. And instead of saying like, I think SEO can help you achieve X, I break it right down as to like, look, this is what we're trying to do. So fundamentally, SEO is a bit of a hierarchy. Organic search is a bit of a hierarchy. So you have this like technical or fundamental level, whatever you want to describe it, whereby like the structure of your site has to be sound, the page speeds have to be sound, like the UX has to be sound. It's kind of like the foundations. Then have a middle ground, which is, okay, great. Now we have this content element of how do we understand what content people need to consume along their buyer's journey to make purchasing decisions. Okay, well, let's make sure we're adding value to that customer journey by giving them content that they need, whether that be video, whether that be influencer stuff, whether it be long form content, ebook, whatever it may be. Like that is another part of the pillar. Then you have at the top, like what used to be digital PR, but like we're seeing that transition away from those traditional forms of digital PR into like what we're calling as an agency distribution. So that's the organic social element, that is link building, that is newsletters, whatever it may be. And understanding at what point those levers need to be pulled and how aggressively they need to be pulled. And I think that was actually one of the decks that we presented. And you don't mention results. You just mention that pure concept of we're going to relentlessly focus on the customer experience by providing them content, propped up by the technical foundations to ultimately add value to their journey that will ultimately lead them to making purchasing decisions. And if you just continually come back to that message and buying into that concept, and you're showing that you're doing that one bit better every single month, you don't need to focus on the results, because ultimately, if you're doing the right things, the results are going to come. And as long as you can start to showcase those like signs of success. So, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I was so against this almost 2 years ago. Like, if you can start showing that pages are ranking, whether they're ranking in SGE or they're just ranking in the normal SERP pages that we know at the moment. So visibility, rankings, is that producing traffic? So there's kind of like a two-step process. Visibility, yes, great. Is it then getting traffic? Yes, great. Is that traffic then converting? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, well, if it is, great, let's do more of it. If it's not, like, let's figure that out. But essentially, quite old school, it's just a funnel. And if you're optimizing against that funnel, good stuff is going to happen. So what I have been focusing on a lot, and I think it is the way that we need to go from a sales perspective, is forget about the results. Yeah, we can give an indication of what we think might be possible to prove the fact that it will be worth a 5K a month, 10K a month, 15K a month, whatever it may be investment. Like, here's what you could have. But ultimately, let's sell them a concept, because if we can get people sold on a concept, like everyone's going to be on the same page.
Very good. I agree. I think the amount of times I've spent over 5 years doing different methods, different approaches, different tools, trying to get numbers. And I guarantee every single time, half of the time, you've undersold the potential and actually you smash through targets, and then the clients are like, what? Like, we're going way ahead. Like, we need to increase these targets. The other house, which looks worse, is you've oversold what you can do results-wise, and that just sours a relationship because the clients feel like they're not getting value, even though you're putting all of that work and the business is growing. So just from those fundamental elements, like, yeah, results are difficult to project, to estimate, in like, especially at the start of relationships. Once you've started the work and monitored it, you can then forecast based off of that. So yeah, interesting. I think buying to the concept to get clients understanding of what you're trying to do first and foremost is going to be crucial moving forwards, because as you say, so many different elements are changing on the organic search landscape. We just don't know at this stage. So yeah, fully agree with that. So thank you for that topic. More of the same next week. And then quickly, we will run through our weekly commitments as ever. So for me, it is to do this delivery for the client tech audit and landscape analysis. And also, I'm not going to put a number to it because it's a falsehood. I might never hit it. So I am going to put effort into getting as many target accounts as possible over the next week. Harry?
Well, what I can see is for those listening, Brendan has changed his answer, because I can clearly see a number next to the number of target accounts that he said he was going to get, but I totally buy into not doing that. And I do think that, in fact, I think what the weekly commitment should be, and it's probably a shared one, is, are we going to continue doing this ourselves, or are we going to outsource it? That is probably what the weekly commitment is. It's probably a half a week. Let's see how we get on. Are we making any progress where we need to be? If the answer is no, this is too important to let slide, so we might have to make that investment.
Agreed. I think the only caveat that I've got to make that investment is, depends how much we have to pay someone to help us with the website, or whether we take the website on instead.
I can categorically say we are not taking the website on. That is a hill that I am prepared to die on.
Yeah, fair. It's all on the budget for me. But yeah, I think potentially we could do half and half anyway, and just test it out to see, because if it's worthwhile investment moving forward, we can use it again once we've hit this target account list. So yeah, I think by next week, episode 10, we will have our target account list plan set and kind of in motion. So that's our commitment, to have the plan set, because I think we'll be debating and discussing this for quite a while. From your side, what are your weekly commitments?
I would love to commit to closing a sale, but I don't think I can necessarily do that. So I'll say I'm just going to see out the ones that I'm working on at the moment. I'm then going to do my favorite thing, something that I've been dying to do, which is I'm going to sort the merch. So not necessarily the launch merch in terms of things we're going to be sending to our target account list and people who have supported us and things like that. But as people will start to see, and something that we've spoken about, is that we take a lot of inspiration from like elite sports teams, right? And one of the things that I think they do really well is like they take some of the they put into their businesses simplicity, and that's something that we want to achieve as well. So we'll be ordering a bunch of agency branded t-shirts that I think it will not be uncommon for us to be wearing every single day, and we'll be wearing on every single podcast as well. So I don't know if they'll be here by the next recording, but they certainly would have been ordered by the next recording.
Nice caveat. I like that.
Then I'm going to help lead on. I'm not doing it, obviously my partner is, but we're going to get to the point where we're in a decent place on the web design, hopefully finalized. And I'm also starting to speak to George, who we've had on the podcast, about working with us on our launch video. So next week we might have a script for that. We might have some pricing for it. Hard to say what it will be, but it is definitely starting the conversations around the launch video.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds busy as well. So let's see how we get on. I'm sure we'll get all of that done. Launch video. Oh, I better sort my face out. Get a nice beard trim going and stuff ready for that launch video as well. So cool. I think that is everything for this week's episode. And unless you've got anything else, Harry?
Nothing more from me.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening. That's been episode 9 of the Building Podcast. Swing well, putt true. To help us build our audience, please like, share and subscribe. If you listened on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you watched us on YouTube, please leave a question or comment and we'll get back to you. Thank you.